Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming into another video. All right, so doing a therapy session because just wanted to talk about the soccer journalist who passed away, Grant Wall, and the whole situation there that I'm starting to just get familiar with. They're having of course, the World Cup. Everybody who's following the World Cup needs to know for a fact that I don't follow the World Cup. So you coming in knowing more than I do about the sport and all of that, I'm super out of the loop. But from what I understand, it's just taking place in a Saudi country, in an area named Qadar, or Qadar. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Please forgive me. But in this country, they do not support Western norms and specifically LGBTQ rights and people. They do not. They have made it very illegal to engage in those freedoms. And it's one of those situations where it's really tricky, man, because in order to have an honest conversation about this, you have to say things that are not very nice in regards to what are understood to be just decency in today's times, because of just the importance of what is put in place for us to prioritize in regards to who's important, who's not important, what's the focus. And right now the LGBTQ community is making a push, as they have been for the past 15 to 20 years, towards having freedom all around the world, and the flag and what they represent and the culture of it all is something that they're trying to spread love for and awareness for. And they've used things that they've seen from the civil rights movement and the women's rights movements and various other rights movements, and it's shown them a blueprint of how to get it done. I think the issue you run into, though, is when it comes to their particular group, it's not going to be looked at the same way around the world. Like, racism exists, yes, but it can be swept away. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's someone's skin color and all of that. So, there's ways to work around it, unless it's just indoctrined in someone's religious practice that they're going to hate that skin color, which is real, or they're going to hate those people for whatever reason, which is real. But when it comes to same-sex marriages and identity understandings, a lot of that is, in our society, understood to be much more of an emphasis on it being right and just than other places. And I think that we're deep into our understandings and our agreements and our relationships with the community, to where we reject the presence of that being real. And that's when it gets dangerous. Because it's like, all right, over here we've made such strides in all of the different progressions that we've gone through. All the rights movements, all of them, we've made great progressions, and then we're in the presence of a place where progressions have been made. And I think that we're so self-centered that we're unable to see that our perspective holds importance based on where we're at and the agreements and the norms of the place that we've been in. That's always had a certain pace to it. That's always had a certain progression to it. That's always looked at the world a certain way. And because we're so self-centered, and because the way what we subject ourselves to caters itself to us, because we're consumer based, so everything is catered to how we're the center of the universe and everything revolves around us. So when we go to other places, we're arrogant as to not wonder why they will reject certain things. We just dismiss it as them just being lesser beings, more or less, or people who just can't see that love is the way, or whatever the mindset would be. But what we don't tend to find out is the context from which they believe these things. And when you get to the understanding of what it is that they believe, then you understand it's life or death, and they will do things to assure that they maintain those beliefs. It's not as simple as you must overcome them because they are stuck in the past and you can change their mind. Because no, a lot of what it is that that the LGBTQ engages in, they have doctrines that they pray and they believe strongly spiritually against the practices. So when you engage in certain activities that we celebrate over here because of the progressions and the nature of progression being a thing in this world that we're in, we go to places like that, try to do business with people like that, and think that we can leverage them by way of our agreements. And if the norms and the examples that we show as loving people, we think that we can come to them and change their minds overnight, or come to them and force them to behave. You know what I mean? Like you're going to accept us because we accept ourselves. Sort of like black people did to white people here, because we had earned that. See what I'm saying? We had the right to do that because we were in our country. You had taken us from our country, made this our country by making us suffer you 400 years, as to which we had earned that right to stand up and say this is our land, because it was. But what you're trying to do is take your identity, what you've understood to be yourself and your truth, and now you're forcing others to agree with you on that truth when they believe that that truth is the very thing that's going to send them into a space from which eternal, negativity or whatever they believe would be from those behaviors. So they will fight to the death to keep those behaviors out of their midst, because they think it's the very thing that'll tear them down. So you thinking you going over there to change their mind, and they thinking you coming over there to poison the well. So they will do everything they can to keep you from doing it. So the disconnect needs to come from first understanding, not the necessarily force feeding of trying to understand why they don't understand you, but more so trying to understand what they feel and the environment from which they've always been, and how you are a disruption to the always been for which you know nothing of. And if you were a part of that always been, you would have suffered what they'd suffered, and you would understand why it's important not to allow things that are not them into their situation, regardless of what it is. So if it's perceived as damaging, they're not going to ask too many questions to find out if it's damaging. They don't know it's not yet, but they do know they need to keep it out, and that's what you need to respect. So until you can get to a point where you can effectively connect with their innermost, so that they can spiritually accept you first for being a human being, and second for whatever choices you make after that, and you're coming over there saying accept the choices before you understand who I am? Oh, no, you're going about it all wrong. And that's when the self-exhaustion and everything's catered to me as a consumer is something that betrays us as Westerners when we go to other places. Because then we take that synopsis, and it ultimately is the very thing that separates us from others. Because what we don't often do is be willing to accept them first without first coming to them saying accept us. Because we have agreements that we feel are more evolved. But that very notion, that feeling, is disrespectful in and of itself. And a lot of times Westerners tend not to respect that, because we're taught not to. A lot of the things that we are taught, they only work here, man. That's the problem. They only work here. A lot of things that we do is competitive in nature and demanding in nature and entitling in nature. In a lot of places, that's not the world they're in. They don't have freedoms, and they don't respect this type of behavior because they think it leads, as I said, to destruction. So they think they must be their way. You know what I mean? And so if you're not going to begin to ask the right questions, if you're not going to begin to understand what it is they understand, if you're not going to begin to understand why they fear certain things, or why they shut off from certain things, or why they would dare not, if you're not allowed to even get close enough to, why would you bull your way to that place and assume that they're going to accept you without you first having to fight your way to get in that process? We're used to being able to shake each other's hands and leverage each other through our politics to getting things done and protests outside and think, nah, you got to be ready to shoot something and kill something for real if you want something in some of these other places. It's not like here. You ain't going to vote your way. Nah, you got to get out there and slice and dice and shoot and stab and get dirty and all kinds of different stuff in other countries. And we're not even equipped. We don't even have that in us. A lot of these people who are standing for their rights, and they're not willing to take it as far as these people are. Not at all. And so to me, it's just like, look, we need to stop being so soft as a nation, because it's really putting us in positions to where we're making bad decisions. Straight up. straight up and down. This Brittany Griner situation has taught me that. It's straight up and down. We are allowing people who have politics and norms that they are arrogant about. We're allowing them to make decisions for us. And these norms are only going to last for 5 minutes. And these agreements don't work in other places. And these other places are going to start becoming more and more powerful. And while we think we're going to influence them, we're going to start finding out there's going to be more of them influencing us because of just how the wall's going to close in on the Westerners. As more of these different nations are going to start to continue to gain ground in various ways and making money that's really easy to do when crypto and all this other crap is around right now. The presence of the internet is going to change the balance of power in a lot of different ways. And I don't think people here are quite ready for the type of adapting that may be possible because we're so gung-ho about all the things that we think is basically us, center of the world, everything is us. But that's why I always talk the way I talk on this camera, is because I know there are certain environments where the stuff that we do, it could be the very thing that gets you undone. It could be the very undoing of you. Some of the stuff that we agree upon, we love this, I stand for it. Man, you go over there standing, they're gonna cut you down. And so it's like you gotta come in with a certain level of humility and respect and context seeking before you're ready to establish your flag in new places. And that's what the mistake has always been. I've seen throughout time and in the various things that I've paid attention to. It's just people coming in quick to declare who they are without actually surveying the land and finding out where the hell they found themselves. Where are you? I'm in India. No, you're not. You're in native land. And then you just continue to see the same mistake being made over and over again in that same vein. And I think there's another version of that. We are who we are. We're going to wear our... No, you're not. You're not going to do that here. You know why you're not going to do that here? No, you don't know why you're not going to do that here. You're just going to do it here, and then you're going to find out that we're serious about it. See what I'm saying? You got to find out. No. And don't come in arrogant as to say, you're not allowing me to because you want to hold me back. No, that's not why people aren't allowing you. You are not even there. You see what I'm saying? You brought yourself to where they do that at. And then proceeded to tell them that this is what you about. Okay, cool. Go back there and do that there. You feel me? But if you're going to be over here, then put your flag down if you want to. You're still here. And what we do here is what we respect. And so that's just what it is. It's the same thing when you come over here. If they come over here pushing all that oppressive stuff, you know how we're going to treat them. You're going to treat them like you treat them. And so when you go over there, assuming you're going to put your flag down, and they just supposed to respect that, you're surrounded, buddy. No, they're not going to respect that. And bad things are going to happen. And so that's just something I wanted to say, man. We got to start seeking context and not so much the respect that comes with just being your exalted self. So many people want to just be respected for being I am me, I'm the. Okay, you are, but where are you? Where did you find yourself? Look around. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, is to survey the land. What's the history of this place? What did they go through that brought them to this place? Why are they guarding against these practices that they feel are going to destroy them? Did something happen in their history that made them think that this is the type of stuff that they think is going to undo them? And if so, maybe isn't that information you want to know before you go over there waving flags? I don't think people care because they're too busy trying to declare themselves important. And I'm telling you, you're just a person. And no matter how important you believe you are, when you go different places, you gotta be able to survive in the places you're at. And if you don't come with a certain level of humility and respect and surveillance for what's going on around you, you're gonna be swallowed up. No matter what it is you believe in or what you think you are. And so that's what I've come to understand. And when you're a black man and you in this country, you understand the history of this country. That's your survival understanding every day. You're surrounded every day. You know that. You walk out your house, there's traps set up all around for you to go to jail, go to hell. It's one or the other. Everything's pointed at you to fail. And so when you see people who don't have that reality here, and then they go to other places where people have an entirely different way of doing things, there's not an understanding that you have to humble yourself. You know what I mean? Like, we inherently have to humble ourselves knowing we're surrounded. Some of y'all think the whole world is like America. Like, you can go somewhere, put the red, white, and blue flag down, and everybody's gonna respect it and adhere to it, and say, can you see, and all that. Like, that stuff ain't real. Those are agreements. No different than the agreements over there that y'all don't agree with. You see what I'm saying? All it takes is people to change their own damn mind. Like, gee, I don't want to do this anymore. Let's do something different. For every agreement you have, including the ones that are unthinkable, I cannot believe. Why would you do this? What is that? What is it? When you start looking around, like really, really looking around, all the things that people do in this world, there's no limits at all. Limited to nothing. So it's like people can adjust to anything. People have adjusted to anything. People have chosen everything under the sun. These agreements that we agree to, they aren't real, bro. They're just that. They're just agreements. They're just agreements. And so as we start to really, really understand it, we stop being married to these agreements as it pertains to being able to audible out of them, as I love to say, when necessary. It works until it doesn't anymore. This makes sense until they give me something that helps me make it not make sense as much anymore. And I always say, from my side of the room, things look a certain way. But if I position myself in an entirely different angle in the room, they may have I have a different perspective. I'm in the same room, but I definitely see things a different way. And so that's kind of what I'm saying, man. We just got to start to seek out what it is people understand. And if we find ourselves in opposing spaces where we just can't meet, then you got to understand what it takes to be able to survive next to a person like that. And if you're not ready to do that, don't stand next to them, man. Don't go there. Don't try to just think that they're going to adhere to what it is that you respect just because you coming over there. So that's what I got to say to that. And then there's another half of that conversation, man. Of course, condolences to Grant Wall. I don't know if he was killed. It was said that he was, detained for wearing an LGBTQ supporting T-shirt 2 weeks ago. And now he had been receiving death threats. His brothers came out today and said that his brother was healthy, that he wore the shirt in support of him, and that ultimately he thinks his brother there was foul play there. And so condolences are obviously sent out. I don't know what happened, but I'm leaning on what his brother said, that he thinks it's foul play, and it looks like it probably was. That's what all of my little 18-minute rant was about. It's like, you can't go over there thinking people gonna respect you just because we respect you over here, and you've convinced everybody that that's what is right and on the forefront of all of our minds in 2022. You know what I'm saying? Because you gotta look, it wasn't like that in 1984 necessarily. It wasn't like that in 1962. We've worked progressively to that point, and so there are other places that never even began that process of progression. It's still 1776 over there in regards to that. You understand what I mean? Like, they're not going for that at all. And so till you can get over there to find out what it is that they own and then reach them, and they gotta love you in order to reach them. And they ain't gonna love you because that's in the way. So it's like, if you think for 1 second you're just about to change their mind, brothers, you put yourself at risk. You put your life at risk, basically is what I'm saying. And there are a lot of people who'll be cool with that. They're gonna be just fine with that because a lot of things are worth dying over. But like, you just gotta not moonwalk into that death is what I'm saying. You can't just think they're gonna just slap you on the wrist and you got detained and that's it. No, buddy, no. Or death threats they're not gonna really do it because I'm from the USA and you get thousands of death threats every day in the USA. Nah, this ain't the USA. And they say the death threats coming. I mean, they're on the way. Like, this ain't that. So you just gotta understand that not everywhere is America, man. Not everywhere is where you're from. And those of us from rural parts of America know better. Those of us from the hood, so to speak, we know better. America ain't America, nowhere safe. It can happen in your neighborhood, unfortunately. Let's hope it doesn't, but it can. For those who just don't believe that, or whatever the case may be, I think that anybody and everybody should have a certain level of respect for gravity and for everything that could be possible in regards to their safety. So that's what I got to say about that, man. I think Much has it's been said about the country from which this has been held and the um, humanitarian concerns that have to do with that place. But this is the same conversation. When you look at where you're at and then think of how the history has been and the progression of the history, and understand that you're not in your land. They don't have your history. They don't have the progression of things getting better in this way, as to where treating people a certain way is understood and everybody knows, even if they're not doing it right, that they should be, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's not the world that is. You're gonna have to start the process of helping these people understand what it is you know, and then you gotta understand that you may not be right for doing so, because we always think we're right for bringing people our Christianity and bringing people our ways and but just because it works for you don't mean it's going to work for them. Maybe because of their history, maybe because of the terrain of their land, maybe because of how their people are structured. Maybe those practices don't work for them. Maybe because of how their science is and they haven't gotten certain ways to help themselves in certain things. That whatever. Who knows the context? But that's the point. We got to seek it. You got to seek it. And a lot of times you don't know what questions to ask. You just think everything's like, it should be this way. What should be what? Where are you going? Do you know what the water's like over there? How far? Like, how's the soil in that land? What's the temperature like? There's so many different things to understand that will open up doors to help you understand questions to ask. The best thing I can say, the best way I can describe it for myself is this. Before I had ever seen snow, I never had heard of chains needing to be on wheels. No concept. Never crossed my mind. No one had ever put that in my mind. So when I was going up to visit my pops and my family up in Big Bear, and we had a real snowy night, my dad had to stop the car and put the chains on, and I had no idea what the hell he was talking about when he said, "Hey son, let's get out in the snow, put the chains on." I didn't know what he was talking about. You know what I mean? But it took us an hour and a half to put them damn chains on. For whatever reason, it really took a long time. And then we helped somebody else put their chains on. By the time we figured it out, I was aware of the concept. And then from there, I understood why chains needed to be on. And then from there, I knew that I needed to remind Dad to put chains on just in case. Like, these are the type of things that gave me context. And then I knew what questions to ask. And then from there, I knew from other things. And it opened up a world of understanding. These places where they hate, so to speak, there's a world of understanding to learn about these people. About what they believe, about what they've been through, about why they went through and everything. To know about them matters, because that understanding will provide you the compassion first to give them the olive branch that you're ultimately demanding from them. And that compassion, I think, will help you start the process of the progression that you're looking for. No different than the progression started here first, with people just kind of not being okay with treating people poorly. And that's how we got where we were going. Because somebody loves somebody enough to say, you know what, I see them suffering, I want this to stop. Even though I benefit from it. And if you can't get that process started in these places where these people hate or whatever, and you're just going to be going over there starting fights and they're going to kill you. Or you're going to have to kill them. And that's not going to make anybody love anybody. That certainly ain't going to make nobody want to care about anybody. I think the example of that, you stand for what you stand for, can work in a lot of settings. You know, putting your chest out and say, we believe, and now we're going to make your children believe. And all of that can work over time. I really believe that. But it's not an overnight thing. You're not going to be able to just go to somebody's country during the World Cup and just say, stop what you're doing and respect me, because we're over here respecting us, and that's how the world got to be. Nah. Politics may be moving that way over here, giving us the guys that politics move that way in the world. But the reality is our politicians are just moving the wrong way, because they're trying to put money over really things that really, really help our safety, it seems to me. Money, the image of things, the intent of identity means more than actually protecting the people who harbor those identities. We'll go to our grave to assure. No, I don't want to go to my grave at all. I want to survive, and I want you to keep me surviving, America. So do things that do that. But that's the thing. The priority of the people in place, they just kind of, I don't know, they value fluff over substance, it seems. And it's a shame because we're in a world where people don't really know the difference. In this society, it seems right now, a lot of people just lost in regards to what actually is substance. And so moments like this and conversations like this, I think, help us get there, hopefully. But yeah, man. Again, condolences to Grant Wall and his family. Thinking about it, the fact that they made it clear that his wife was a part of the Biden administration, which I thought was really, really interesting. She's someone who was a physician or a doctor of some sort, and she had some control over COVID-19 stuff. I'm obviously not in the loop, but that's my understanding. Very, very, very interesting stuff when you consider all there is to see there. And it's just one of those situations where it's like, if we're gonna talk about the country and how that they're holding the World Cup there, and the humanitarian rights, and the fact that they were using migrant workers in a way that we don't accept, because we've come a long way in regards to our workers' rights and things of that nature, and we assume everybody else is going to be able to do it overnight because we understand it for some reason. I don't know why we think that. It took us 400 years to start treating people right. We go to other countries and be like, yo, get it right now because we get it. It's like the arrogance of these people. But nevertheless, no, you have to do the hard work there just like you had to do the hard work here, and you got to assume it's going to take just as long. So that's what it is, man. Y'all got to be ready for the long haul, and you got to be ready to learn about people before you just ready to tell them this is us, because the way they treat people has been the way they've been treating people the whole time. You know what I'm saying? You talk about slavery and all these different things that we talk about in the books and the history books and all this stuff. America did a fantastic job of sophisticating its way away from barbaric ways of doing things. We're not as barbaric. I'll give them that. They found a way to effectively remove just the just blatant rudeness, of it all. But that's not the rest of the world, man. That's not the rest of the world. They're still trying to find a way to get there, I guess, some of them. And so the why is most important. The why is most important. You consider countries are making very, very little money in their situations. They're probably being treated very poorly, and then this World Cup goes to this little random country over here, and now we can go there. Yeah, we're getting treated poorly there, but they're gonna pay us. They're gonna build up like this huge stadium. I'm building a stadium like that could be the epicenter of change for my life if I'm one of those places. If I'm one of those people from one of those places. So if I go there and the conditions are horrible, they are very much horrible, yes, but as it pertains to what we're used to in the environment, as it pertains to what I'm used to in my environment, it's probably what we're used to. So the best way to go about it, if you want to see change in those places, is to try to influence by way of giving, rather than hold you accountable. More so, do the humanitarian thing. That's what you do. You get there and you show love, and you show people how you do it. You try to provide some sense of infrastructure if possible. You put your interest there just like we put our interest in Iraq. You know what I mean? When we were trying to help them with their army or whatever it is we claim we were doing, you actually do that in these places if you really care about seeing the change there. You know what I mean? You help them folks along, rather than holding them accountable for not being what it is that you've manifested over time. I just know better. And so progression comes, man. People come out of the womb and they want a fresh opportunity. You know what I mean? The only reason why people agree to not have a fresh opportunity is because people in place have already agreed to keep them from having that. Eventually the uprising comes from new generations, because it happens everywhere, all over the world, all the time. And so they're going to get the same thing in these places eventually. Their kids will wake up and decide they want to turn on the internet. You know what I mean? And from there, they'll want their freedoms, and it'll take some time to get to where we're at, I believe. But as far as the religious differences and the practices of different sexual things that they think could tear their religion down or keep them from their eternal peace and all that, I don't know if you can convince people to change their thinking in regards to that. I don't think so. Not when it comes to their perception of what that is. You would have to give them context and then have them open up a box of questions for which will allow their minds to you feel me? And if we can't fathom changing our own minds in regards to the things that we will not stand for, then we need to understand and fathom how someone else could have that same going on the opposite end of things that we very much stand for. So that's what it is, man. Come ready to convince and change minds, or ready to cut heads off. It's one or the other. Don't think you're just gonna stand somewhere and say, yo, I'm me, and you're gonna love me for it in another country. Nah, that's not how that works. It's a blank canvas, and just assume they're in a space where they don't know of treating people well. That's something that they should want as a country. You know what I mean? Not to disrespect them, but well is in what it is your definition of well is. And then maybe you'll find out when you get there that maybe you need to start adapting to some of the stuff that they on. Maybe infuse it into some of the things that you're doing. Find balance in that. Maybe some of what they got going on is actually the real stuff. Maybe we're on some stuff that we shouldn't be doing. We would never let that into our minds, will we? Nor will they let this into theirs. Consider it. BDF 44. Thank you all for watching. I'm out.